Welcome to the MCSFO podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Ray, and oh my gosh, I can't even tell you guys how exciting this is going to be right now. So with me, I have, of course, my normal, usual suspects. I have Darion and Tariq, and also I have Glenn on the Zoom with us, about to say on the line with us, but on Zoom. So in addition to that, and we're about to see everybody in a second, we're also have News 19 nerds on with us, and I have Leroy on with us. Say what's up, Leroy.
What's up? What's up, fam? This is Leroy. We're coming out of Columbia, South Carolina. I'm with the News 19 nerds, and I've got Loren Thomas, and I got Michael Patterson over there. So say what's up, people.
Hey.
What's up?
Hello. Nice to talk to everybody. Nice to meet everybody, and really
nice to meet everyone.
Celebrate this Black excellence, which is fantastic.
Right, that's what I'm cheesing. That's what I'm cheesing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, for sure.
Absolutely.
Tyler Perry ain't got nothing on us. The show, Tyler Perry.
Oh, wait. You said Tyler Perry?
You did.
Interesting.
We got a studio.
We're laughing so hard. We have some TPS in the house, but we're not going to talk about that right now.
They need to keep their job, so
that'll be a whole nother podcast.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. But yeah, nothing but love for all of them. Who knows what may happen? They may be liking what we doing, and somebody can see this, and I'm just saying. Anywho. I want to make sure everybody knows who my folks are. So Darion, raise your hand, Darion. Everybody know who Darion is. He is a filmmaker.
Hello.
Yes.
Forever.
Yeah. Director of like Mommy, Pony, Hop, all that kind of stuff. Y'all can see at least 2 of those on the MCSFO YouTube channel. I think I just put up on there. And then we got Tariq, is a budding sci-fi filmmaker. Right?
How you doing? Writer, director.
Yes, and Glenn, my baby, Glenn over there. So, all right. So real quick though, I would like to talk a little bit about how we kind of joined forces and how this whole thing even happened. And it was actually Tariq. So Tariq, why don't you tell everybody, I know I wrote down this whole thing what I was going to do, but I want you to tell everybody how this whole union, what we're doing, came about.
Yeah, so I'm usually a nerd when it comes to film, TV, and I like watching people's opinions and reactions. And I've been watching News 19 Nerds reactions to Westworld and other, trailers that you guys have done, and I'm a big fan of you guys. And when we were doing our podcast on Westworld, and I said that you guys doing a podcast, and I was like, hey, when me, Darion, and Amanda, I was like, okay, we were like the host versions of them because two guys and a woman on there. So I was saying, that'd be cool if we had like a conversation about it since we're all fans of the show.
Exactly. So, of course, me and my marketing head, I was like, oh, let me hit him up.
we appreciate it.
And we just thought it was funny. We were like, wait, which one? Okay, so this is before Glenn, because Glenn is our resident cameo. He makes our cameo appearances. But at the time, I think Tariq you guys were trying to match each other up. I mean, obviously, we got the 2 females, we're only 2 women, so we're like our hosts. But you guys had, I forgot which one was it. Was Leroy Darion or Tariq? I don't remember.
So, Leroy is Tariq because of the glasses.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, because that's what we were doing. We were just Loren got glasses, but that made it easier.
It's too
funny. Yeah, no, it was just a really cute thing to kind of see that we had people and there's probably tons, of course, of other folks out there like us talking about Westworld who love Westworld, but you don't get to see a lot of African American people talk about existential shows like this, stuff that's more intellectual. So I just think it's important for us to see, you have a lot of us who are really paying attention to this show and paying attention to the characters and how everything is being played out. So I'm gonna just jump right into some more questions, I think. So I have like this whole big list of stuff that we're going to talk about, but we're going to just start out with some kind of simple general questions, because I know you guys have your podcast as well under News 19 Nerds. And I think you guys had already did episode 6, and we haven't done episode 6 yet. So we'll get into that in a minute. But just some general questions. So when did everyone at News 19 Nerds, when did you guys first start even watching Westworld?
We kind of started watching it when it first came out.
You did.
We had been watching it for years, but we hadn't done a show on it. We had done other shows. We had done Game of Thrones. Earlier this year, we did The Outsider. And so we'd done reviews like at the end. So we were talking and we were like, well, let's do I thought we had done Westworld. We were watching it and we were talking about it, but we hadn't done the show. So after The Outsider, we were like, well, let's go episode by episode. Right. And it really was one of those shows where I'd seen the original movie. I knew about the concept, and it really didn't pique my interest until I saw the cast. Until the cast came out, and I was like, Dandy Newton's in it, you know. And I was like, one of the Hemsworth brothers, and then I was like, which one is this? And then I was like, it was so many different people. Jeffrey Wright was really the one who, like, honestly, that was the star that made me say, all right, this is some legitimacy to it. Because as much as I love, you know, Anthony Hopkins and Ed Wright, they've been in some trash. But I was like, Jeffrey Wright was the one that I was like, he usually, if he's in something, I'll pay attention. And then Michael started watching it. Then Loren was watching it. And I'm going to let Loren tell you about what it was like when she was watching it. But we were watching it, and we were talking about it at work while we were doing other things. And then as The Outsider wrapped up, we were like, well, let's do this one. And part of the reason why we did it, and me and you, Amanda, we talked about this. Honestly, this helped our mental state to watch something and talk about it, because it was one of those shows where we were like, it was so deep, it made you question. And I've used this term a lot, the nature of your own reality, what it means to be human. And there weren't a lot of shows, I think, that tackled that to that degree. And it was just fun to talk to them and like have somebody to talk to about this, and, you know, not just yelling into the void about this show.
Gotcha. How about you, Loren? Were you all watching it in the beginning? Like, what? How do you first actually heard about the show? Because I'll tell you guys, I know for me, I was watching it since its inception, but I heard about it way before it came out. Like, you know, just the trailer or whatever. And I, like you, Leroy, saw the whole lineup. I'm a huge fan of Anthony Hopkins. And as soon as I saw, you know, Tandy Newton and Jeffrey Wright, I was just like, ooh, wait a minute. I got to watch this. This is going to be, and just the concept of it. I was a little familiar with Westworld, the original, but I was too young. So I don't really, I think I saw it on some repeat on television or something. And I didn't remember a lot from the original at all. I just knew it was some robot running around in a Western setting. That's pretty much it, which I think was a good thing, because I was able to go into the show with clean eyes and not be influenced by the previous movie. But I saw it from the very beginning, so I knew I was going to be on top of this early on.
Yeah, I think I don't know how I was introduced to this, but I know I had no clue what it was about going into this show. I know that at the time I was trying to get another sci-fi show in, because I watched Helix, and I was trying to get like another sci-fi fix.
Helix.
So that show, that show. But I feel like what I stumbled upon with Westworld was not exactly what I thought it was going to be. In fact, it was too deep for me in the beginning. And I joke around with Michael and Leroy about how I was going to sleep on episodes in the first season. Like, I fell asleep the whole first season. And they're like, how, why, you missed so much.
Wow.
I've gone back and rewatched, but because that show is so dense, and when you're I feel like I'm the baby of the bunch, and I'm always connected to this phone. And so I'm, Candy crushing and texting and things and it's really one of those shows where you have to drop everything and listen and just watch and let it kind of soak in. And I didn't start doing that till halfway through season 2. I'm definitely in it now, season 3.
Right.
But season 1, it was hard to get the ball rolling a little bit there.
Right.
But I definitely enjoy the show.
Loren, just real quick. I mean, I had just been talking to Amanda. With me being as a writer director, we were talking about the fact that now, as we make content, we have to keep in mind the fact of how people consume that content and basically compete with, you know what I'm saying? Phones. People are like, they got phones going on, tablets, things popping up. So if you're not making something that's really engaging, you know, you just have to be aware that you're going to lose. You know, you're going to lose them quick. You know.
But I think it still made me wonder, and I was still interested in it. But it really was like, you know, y'all know it's a dense show. So, you know, some elements I was like, okay, I'm really into this, but other elements I wasn't as into. But yeah, I'm definitely going into it now. I put the phone down. I'm paying attention 100%, taking notes.
They got you. They got you. That's
Exactly.
Really.
So, real quick, I just need to kind of keep moving so we can get into the meat of some of these questions. We're going to just go around the thumbnails. And we'll start with, let's see, who's on the end over here? Is that Michael? I forgot who's on the end over here. Oh, that's Glenn. Let's start with Glenn. What is your favorite, who's your favorite character and why? Real quick, go. You got 2 seconds.
Mom, I love her. I love how when she becomes self-aware, when she realizes she has powers, but then is also pulled by her daughter, her so-called fake daughter, and how when she realizes she's still fake, she still has that humanity in her, even though she's still a machine, to go after and try and save her. And now it's going to be interesting to see where she goes from here.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. All right, D, go.
D meaning me. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna sound like a parent here, but Maeve for me, I'm definitely still attached to her from those first 2 seasons of seeing her journey, and so I really want to see where that goes. I just love Thandie Newton too. So I mean,
that too. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
All right, M, go.
Michael.
Michael.
I was doing first letter initial. Sorry.
Oh, my next. It's weird because the way it's listed on our I guess the way it's listed for me might be different for you. So I don't know who was next. But for me, my favorite character is Bernard. I like the idea of throughout all 3 seasons, Bernard has always had this dual personality, the split personality of a Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing. And I think it's kind of evolved for each season. They're kind of adding more facets and layers to it. And I think Jeffrey Wright is great. I really, what was it? He was in Shaft, right? That was him?
Yeah.
Jeffrey Wright. Yeah. And I've always enjoyed Jeffrey Wright. I think he's a great actor. And to me, I like his journey of trying to figure out what his reality is. I think he portrays that very well. And the writers do a good job of giving him something different with each season. So Bernard.
Right. Okay. All right, Loren?
Maeve is still number 1. I mean, I just like how strong she is and how driven she is. And even though everybody, you know, hosts are going one way, she's like, I'm on my own path and I can control all of y'all. So
Yes.
Love it.
Right. How about you, Tariq?
I'm joining the Maeve train, of course. Bomb. But for me, you know, she represents us as a people because as she's gaining her freedoms, they're still pulling her back, but she's gaining it again. So just like us, like, you know, no matter how hard they kick us down, we want to keep going. So that's what Maeve represents for me. She represents us.
Yes,
sir.
All right, Leroy.
I'm a bucket, and I'm gonna say I'm Team Dolores. I've been
Team Dolores. Okay.
I've been Team Dolores because we've seen the nature of her progression from being this doe-eyed damsel in distress with Teddy's character, and a daughter with, you know, Abernathy, and just she's been a victim throughout a lot of the entire first season. And to see now she's literally everybody's freedom fighter is somebody's terrorist. And that is definitely Dolores. Dolores is a person who started from basically nothing, who was a pawn that everybody seemed to play with, whether it was Bernard, it was Ford, the Man in Black. And now this is a person who's leading a revolution, and she's not perfect. And that's the one thing I like about her. She does not do everything right, and she makes mistakes. But she was like, the things that she comes across, her first instinct sometimes is so violent. And I can understand that a little bit. And then she has to pull back and she has to say, let me think about this for a second. And I think the nature of her journey from when you see her now, you know, walking like she's on the Milan runway, just running things in San Francisco, from when she was like, oh, Teddy, will you save me? And, you know, that whole, that whole dichotomy in her character is just so amazing to watch. That, is she really a savior of her people? Is she really selfish? What is her end game? And I think, to me, that's been the most intriguing in watching this show.
Gotcha. Wow. All right, Glenn.
But man, you didn't say who you like.
Oh no, I am. I was just because I see all you guys on my thumbnail going across, so I think Glenn, and then I'll go last.
Okay. What?
Oh, Glenn already went.
Yeah, I already went.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's insane. Yeah. So I probably need to get some coffee. I forgot. Oh, because I think I know what it is, because I swapped you guys when I went to the left. It moved y'all over on my computer thing here. So yeah, so Maeve has always been my favorite character. I like her sense of style. I think she reminds me, I'm, you know, originally from New York, and women from New York can be very tough and have a very tough exterior. And although I feel like she's a very tough woman and a no-nonsense woman, she's a lady. And I think she reminds a lot of women that you can still be strong and still stay a lady and still be feminine at the same time. So I really love that about her. But I think that, you know, Dolores is definitely a character that has grown a lot. And my thing is, when you talk about acting, everyone plays their part. I can't, all the main characters are exceptional actors, which is why they're in this show. But I think definitely, for me anyway, Dolores is she's different this season. Although I still don't care for her character, for her as an actress, she's dead on, because I don't like you. So if I don't like you as a character, you did your job well. So, you know what I mean? If I have strong feelings about that character, that's only a testament to their acting ability. So I totally love her for that. Real quick, I'm gonna go around the room again, and I'll kick it off. If anybody wants to jump in, go right ahead. But what have you taken away or learned from this sci-fi series so far? And that's the, you know, question I'm putting out there on the table. For me, it gives me a chance to reflect on my life and to reflect on where I see my life going. It gives me an opportunity to not only look within myself, but as I'm doing that, I understand other people as well. So that's what I get the most out of this show for me. So, Darion, you go.
Oh, that's cool. My answer might be a little different. My answer is probably more related to myself as a creator. So I think the show, now regardless of different people's opinions season to season, I consider this show to be a success. And so it shows me that people do have an appetite for a show that is layered, multi-layered. They are looking for stuff like that. They really want something they can chew into. If you look at all the commentary online and everything like that, people thirst, you know, they feel like they're hungry for a kind of content that is more than 1 or 2 layers deep. And so as a creator, this is the stuff I like to make. So it does give me that encouragement to say, like, you know what, you can go for it, and don't worry that you're gonna, you know, that it might be, you might make something that's too dense or too layered and lose a lot of people, because you'll get the people that you're trying to connect with anyway. So that's what I take from it.
That makes sense. Anyone else?
I looked at it that everybody has evolved on the show. and I looked at it and I say, you don't have to be the same person you were. Me and Loren, we kind of talked about this over time. Loren mentioned, we talked about the fact that Maeve is a mother, but she really isn't. And we've seen in this this season, Maeve was more of a mother than Charlotte Hale's character was. And she biologically was a mother of a child. And it goes back to that whole idea that you don't have to be a biological relative of someone to actually look out for that person. And it was the show's kind of a reflection of humanity in general. When you look at it, it's like, yeah, you started out as this person, but that doesn't mean your journey ends as this person. Amanda, you talked about Maeve walking around, like, I've never heard a woman say darling the way Maeve, when she walks out and she walks like darling. And it's like, it's just the way she enunciates words. And then you look at Ford and you thought Ford was this nice guy. And then you realize you're like, Anthony Hopkins was kind of a dick. Like, he didn't have to make him jump through all these hoops for 30 years to gain consciousness. And then, you look at everybody and you see Lee Sizemore's character. I want to get his name correct. Simon Quarterman. He was the developer and he wrote the narratives. And Maeve told him his writing was crap. And you see him evolve as a character to the point where he was willing to put his life on the line for what some people would say is a machine. And that journey for somebody to say, I'm willing to sacrifice myself for you, it goes back to a little bit of what Darion was saying, that this is a dense show. I love, me and Michael watched
Expanse?
Just watched it. Huh? What?
Expanse?
No, not that one. The one, the body jumping with Joel Kinnaman.
Altered Carbon.
Oh, Altered Carbon, the new one or the old one?
The new one?
Yeah, so we watched both of them. And Westworld, to me, is the show Altered Carbon wants to be.
Yeah,
and I'm not trying to knock Altered Carbon, but Westworld makes you question, if you jump into somebody else's body, do you become that? I mean, Altered Carbon didn't do that, and Westworld did, and it just made you ask so many different questions you probably wouldn't ask on your normal day run to Target.
Right. Yeah. And that's unfortunately their execution, because I did read the Altered Carbon books, and it's there in the material. It's there.
Altered Carbon is older, because
they just didn't execute, in the show, unfortunately.
Like, when you read the books, you're like, where is this? And you're watching the show, and it's a nice, the graphics are great, but there's no existential crisis that these characters are facing, considering they could live thousands of years old, switch bodies, genders. Yeah. And it's like, why do I feel like I'm watching futuristic Xena?
Futuristic Xena would not be a bad thing, sir. Don't you slay our Xena warrior princess.
All I'm saying is, I don't need futuristic Xena and Hercules. I want a good show. I'm just saying.
Right.
Oh my gosh, y'all are killing me right now. Oh wow. Yeah. So anyone else on what the show, what you've taken from it, like what you how it changes your perception in your life or your world, what you've taken from the show?
Michael, you wanna?
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say quickly, like, this show just takes me away from reality. And I enjoy it because of that. And I know I've had conversations with Leroy and Michael, about how this is like, trying to figure out who is human and who is not. And it really just tries to define what is humanity, really. It doesn't even matter when you could be a host and still have these emotions and still play your role. So it really is like, know your role in life, but also, grow with it, depending on where you are in different worlds. You can be put in Westworld, you can be put in War World, and still progress, or still have your experiences from other places that you've gone. Because I think just for me, I moved around my entire life, and every place that I've lived, I've taken some of that place with me, whether it's friends, whether it's an accent, whether it's just knowledge of being in that place. And so this show has really just brought out the growth process in these characters, and also making me think about my growth as well, but still knowing my role in life, at least a goal that I have in life. If that makes any sense, because I feel like I sound like
it does.
No, it does. It makes a lot of sense.
All right.
Hey, Michael, how about you?
For me, this show is a multi-million-dollar experiment with the final tagline being, just treat others the way you want to be treated. Right? It's a simple concept, but people, when you have the absence of authority or the absence of a higher power or some type of controlling factor, it puts you in this experiment to see how you'll treat other people, right? And I think it's a good life lesson to learn that you don't always know what other people are going through or what they're dealing with. You just want to treat people with kindness, because you don't know how they're going to respond to something that you do, some flippant remark that you do, whether it's you say something, off the cuff, or you control their very narrative, whatever it may be. They're going to come back. It may come back to bite you in the butt. So I feel like it just boils down to a glorified experiment of treat people the way you want to be treated. And it is a fantastic show with that.
Hey, but
That's
Michael,
awesome.
so real quick, just to dig in on that, and maybe this is for everybody, sorry, man, there's a little bit of sidetrack, but Michael brought it up, so I have to address it. So Michael and everybody else, if Westworld were real right now, and you could go there just like going to Disney World, would you go there?
Nope.
And do you think you would actually treat everybody the way they're supposed to be treated, and just go and play spades and then have a few drinks and leave? Or
No. You know what? It's so funny because you segued into that. What I took away from the show is that this is where I think we're going to first of all, we're developing robots, or they're on the cusp of developing them, especially in the sexual industry with these sex dolls. Okay.
Right.
So
right.
So
from personal experience.
So you can see, so if they're developing something like that, you can see it parallel in Westworld, where what if somewhere down the line, they do create an amusement park with androids that have feelings that look, and then just like Michael said, you can go in, and I don't think they're going to treat each other or treat them as they would themselves. They're going to try and come out with all these depraved fantasies, just like in Westworld. So I really, from this show, and being that the writers are so futuristic and thinking forward, I really do see us going down that path eventually. So it's so interesting how this show just plays upon it, and then also reality. And sometimes when you go outside, it's like, wait a minute, what am I doing with my life? And how would I want to escape it going to an amusement park, just like these people are doing on the show? So it's so funny, Darion, that you mentioned it. So it's interesting. I don't know what I would do, and it all depends on the person's frame of mind when they go to the park and how they would act and react,
Yeah, no, that's
exactly what I would do. I don't know why. I don't know if you guys remember Head of State, when Bernie Mac got off the bus, or slapping everybody. That is what I would do. I would start slapping the mess out of everybody in there.
Oh my gosh!
Get that out first, and then we can go play spades with the guys down there.
Right,
or whatever.
Well, what's so funny is, Darion, and I think that this would make for a great podcast episode, because there's so much that can actually be talked about with this, because it's really kind of a loaded question. It really is, but it's loaded, but it's actually kind of simple, right? So if we actually had a real Westworld park, we would not be doing anything much different than we do now, except we'll have the freedom to go further with it. So when you get in a car wreck, what do you want to do? You want to get out and punch that person in the face, or you want to flip them a bird. All the things that keep us from being in jail every second of our lives, we're free to do in Westworld. So
just go ahead and do it, right?
So when you think about it and you put it in context, we live in a society right now where we have to be very careful on what we say on social media for fear of all kinds of backlash, more than previous generations. So, so we're already living in a society where, and I think Black Mirror covered this, but where we are held back, you know, our emotions, whatever we want to say and do, we have to kind of keep a lid on everything. And so if you are now going into a place where you can just be yourself, no matter how evil, okay, no one will judge you. You could be the only one in the park. It may not be other humans in there. You might be in a certain area of the park where you're only around hosts. So, you know, you know, at first you'll be thinking, I know there's cameras here. I know people are watching me, but there may be other areas where obviously if there's sex going on, there might not be any cameras. And if you feel that comfortable, when you feel so comfortable where once you've been going for a while, I'm pretty sure even in the show, people didn't cut up the first or second or third or even a few times that they went to the park. But if you're consistently going and you've gotten used to the place, you're going to eventually let loose. It's going to automatically happen. So I think that, you know, you know, your core self, who you are, is kind of like squeezing an orange. Whatever is inside you, once it's squeezed with pressure or anything else, that's what's going to come out that's already in there. So if you already have a violent streak within you, if you already have a temper, that's what's going to come out eventually. You'll hold on to it as much as you can, but it's going to spill over. It's going to be like, id.
Your id.
Yeah,
definitely.
So that's just what I kind of feel like if we had a park like that now. I don't know if that'll help us or not, because that's what therapy is. You're supposed to be able to have a safe space, whether it's within your own house or within your religion or whatever, to say and do and think the things you want to think without any kind of consequence, because you do need to be honest with yourself and understand who you are, all the facets, all the different moons and phases in your world. You need to understand who you are. Once you understand that, then you can make the right decisions that you need to make. But a lot of people don't really know themselves. Really, it takes time, it takes age, it takes, you know, being on this planet for a while. And I think being in that park, just as we saw, without leaking too much into the show, we saw with William, he got a chance to sit down with himself. And what did he do? He beat himself up a lot.
Literally.
That was a pun, guys. That was a joke. And I was just like, oh, William, don't beat yourself up. It's okay. But yeah, that was something I wanted to say real quick, just to get that one out of the way. What do you think, Tariq?
I would go into the park, but I don't know. I don't have a violent streak in me, so, but I don't know what I would do in terms of, like, you know what I mean, besides what I would do with humans. So why would I?
Stuff though. It doesn't have to be
right. I guess to experience the different time periods, probably.
Yeah, because some of the people I remember went to the park just to know what it's like to put on the cowboy thing and shoot blanks, or, you know, shoot blanks, but clearly they were shooting the actual host. So people wanted to know the feeling of what it's like to actually shoot and kill someone. That was it. So aside from the dark parts of the park, there probably is a lot of fun things that they don't get the chance to show us because the show is very dark. But there could be a lot of fun things that you can do in the park that you wouldn't normally think to want to do in your everyday world. But that's just it. The park was really based on what we cannot do in our everyday world. It's really all the bad shit, because we can do all the good fun stuff unless you're just broke. You know what I mean? Unless you, you know, unless you broke or you can't get, you know, or you have fears. Maybe you have a fear of heights, so you don't want to do skydiving, or you don't want to do stuff like that. But it's really all the things that we cannot do in our everyday world is what you're allowed to do in Westworld. So to answer my question I was throwing out to you, I guess there's not many fun things that people would do.
Well, I would go to experience the different eras, the time eras. So like, you know, and I wouldn't go to the war world because I'm not trying to deal with Nazis and shit. But but I would go to.
Oh, but wait, Tariq, what if you had a chance to go back in antebellum South and speak your mind?
Ooh. Yeah. Oh, you gonna get all that violence out there.
Your own personal Django.
Right, you know what I
promise you, I don't care what kind of violent
They do.
streak you think you don't have. William didn't think he had one either. And Tariq, don't take this
Right.
personal. I'm not saying about you,
Slavery
but I'm
world.
just saying, just in general, it's hard to know what's going to come out.
Did you say slavery world?
Slavery world.
Slavery world.
Let that go.
Put that on.
Did you
Somebody
say
put that on a
slavery world?
t-shirt.
It's slavery world. Wow.
You see
T-shirt
Lakita
slavery.
right there.
I went to slavery world.
Yeah.
That was this shirt.
But then you gonna look at the white people different when they go. You
On
like,
the
why you
back-
there?
Oh my gosh.
I survived slavery world.
Right.
Oh man. I
The
mean,
new challenge.
it would be
You
really
might have some of
interesting.
us going back because they like to get beat. You never know.
Oh my goodness, honey.
Oh, so this is like
We
a
about to
racial
take this
litmus test.
viral.
I'm sorry, Master. I only got one down today.
I got some names we can throw out there. I'm just saying.
Oh my gosh, y'all are killing me right
you a
now.
whole fool. You a whole fool.
There's a whole nother side show that can be done on Slavery World, a Westworld show. But we're gonna keep it clean because
Right.
yeah, I kind of do work with HBO a little bit from time to time, so we're gonna keep it clean.
Right.
On a side note, but actually on a side note,
Hold on. HBO was the one who wanted to make Confederates.
I was
So
about
that's
to say
true.
that. Yes, yes,
That's
Oh
true.
yes.
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 You took it right out of my mouth.
Let's
I was
not
just about to
forget.
say that. Yep. So they probably wouldn't mind this kind of conversations because they caught a lot of flack for even the idea of it. But I think I understood the overall bigger picture where they were going with it. But we'll see what ends up happening. But I don't want to get too far off the topic because we still have a ton of things to cover with Westworld.